You have tried this before. Maybe it was an app on your phone, a streak of 30 days, little green check marks, a sense of progress. Then you opened your mouth in front of a real human being and nothing came out. Or maybe it was a class, years of conjugation tables, grammar drills, textbooks with pictures of people buying bread in fictional bakeries. And after all of it, you still cannot hold a real conversation. You start to wonder if you are just not a language person, if your brain is somehow not wired for this. I want to stop you right there, because the problem is not your brain. The problem is your method. You have been learning a language the way a biology student memorizes the periodic table, rule by rule, list by list, unit by unit, but that is not how a human brain acquires language, and the CIA figured this out decades ago. The United States government has a facility called the Defense Language Institute, hidden in Monterey, California. They take ordinary people, analysts, officers, field agents, and they make them functionally fluent in Arabic, Mandarin, Russian in as little as 6 months. Not conversational, functionally fluent, capable of conducting real-time interrogations, debriefing sources, reading classified documents, without a dictionary. Today, we are going to break down exactly how they do it, and I am going to show you how to apply it to your own life, without a government budget and without moving to Monterey. But first, we need to understand what went wrong with the way you were taught. The school model of language learning is based on what linguists call explicit learning. That is the conscious, deliberate memorization of rules. You learn that in Spanish, adjectives come after nouns. You store that rule. You try to apply it when you speak. The problem is that when you are in a real conversation, your brain does not have time to run a grammar check. Conversation moves at 4 to 5 words per second. By the time you remember the rule, the moment is gone. The silence has become awkward, and you have smiled and nodded at something you did not understand. This is because explicit learning uses your working memory. Think of working memory like a small desk. It can only hold a few items at once, and it is very slow. Real language does not live on the desk. It lives somewhere deeper. Linguists call it implicit learning. It is the same system your brain used when you learned your first language as a child. You were not taught grammar. You were flooded with meaning, and slowly, without trying, the patterns sank in. They became automatic, reflexive, the way you do not think about balance when you walk. The CIA method is not about memorizing a language. It is about tricking your brain into acquiring it. The same way you acquired your mother tongue, just faster, because now you are an adult with strategy. Here is the core principle behind everything they do. Linguists call it the comprehensible input hypothesis. Put simply, your brain acquires language when it receives messages it can almost but not quite fully understand. The key word is almost. If the input is too easy, your brain is bored, no acquisition happens. If the input is too hard, your brain panics. It shuts down, no acquisition happens. The sweet spot, the zone where actual wiring occurs, is just above your current level. Researchers call this I+1. Your current level is I, and you need input at I plus one step beyond. Think of it like swimming. You do not learn to swim by reading a book about swimming, and you do not learn to swim by being thrown into the ocean in a storm. You learn in water that's just deep enough to challenge you, where you can almost touch the bottom. That is where the brain builds its circuits. Now let's talk about how the CIA structures those 6 months, because it is not random immersion. It is a very precise system. And I am going to break it into 4 stages. Stage 1 is called lexical bootstrapping. In the first 30 days, before the DL, does anything else, they build what is called a high-frequency core vocabulary. Research by linguist Paul Nation shows that just 2,000 words cover approximately 90% of all spoken language. 2,000 words, not 10,000, not grammar textbooks, 2,000 carefully chosen words. But here is the critical difference in how they learn them. Not flashcards, not translation lists. They use a technique called spaced repetition combined with emotional encoding. Spaced repetition is a software-driven system. Programs like Anki use an algorithm. They show you a word right before your brain is about to forget it. This exploits what memory researchers call the spacing effect. It is the neurological principle that memories are consolidated during the gap between exposures, not during the exposure itself. Every time you retrieve a memory that is just about to fade, you are physically thickening the neural pathway. It is like a scar getting stronger each time it heals. But the CIA adds a second layer that most language apps ignore: emotional encoding. Neuroscience shows that the amygdala, your brain's emotional alarm system, tags memories with priority levels. High emotion equals high priority. High priority means it is harder to forget. So instead of learning the word for danger from a list, an agent learns it through a scenario, a role play where consequences feel real, where the body is slightly activated. For you at home, this means you do not learn a word in isolation. You learn it inside a sentence that means something to you personally, a sentence about your life, your fears, your desires. The word sticks because it is attached to something that matters. Stage 2 begins at day 30. It is called immersive input. Once you have your core vocabulary, you stop studying. That sounds wrong. But this is the part most people never do, and it is the part that changes everything. You begin consuming the language at massive volume, not textbooks, real content designed for native speakers, but content you can almost understand. This is called comprehensible input in the wild. You watch children's television in your target language, not because it is childish, but because it uses simple grammar, visual context, and natural speech patterns. You listen to podcasts made for language learners called graded listeners, where a native speaker tells real stories at a slightly slowed pace with the vocabulary just at your eye plus one level. You are not translating. You are not analyzing. You are absorbing. Researchers at the University of Quebec found that comprehensible input exposure activates the same neural circuits as native language processing, not the translation circuits, not the grammar circuits. Your brain is being rewired from the outside in. And here is the rule that makes this work. You must get a minimum of 1 hour of focused input per day. Every single day, no exceptions, no gaps, because language acquisition is not linear. It builds like compound interest. Missing a day does not set you back one day. It disrupts the consolidation cycle. Think of it like watering a plant. Miss one day, and it is fine. Miss a week, and the root system begins to dry. Stage 3 begins around month 2. It is called output forcing. Up to this point, you have been silent, and that silence has felt uncomfortable. You have felt like you are not progressing, but something is happening beneath the surface. Linguists call it the silent period. And it is not failure. It is the brain building its internal grammar model, the same way a child understands language for months before speaking. But at some point, you have to force the output. And the CIA does this through a specific method called structured output practice. Not free conversation, not just speak and make mistakes. That is too stressful. The anxiety shuts down the very circuits you're trying to activate. Structured output means you speak inside a container, a script you have prepared in advance, a specific scenario you have practiced. The technique is called shadowing. You take a short piece of native audio, 10 to 30 seconds, you listen 3 times. Then you speak along with it simultaneously. You do not translate, you mimic the rhythm, the tone, the speed, the melody of the language. This is what phoneticians call prosodic mapping. It is the process of teaching your mouth and ear the music of the language before you worry about the words. Because every language has a melody. French falls at the ends of phrases. Japanese rises in the middle. Arabic has a rhythm like a drum. Your brain hears its native language as music before it hears it as words. You need to learn the music of your target language. And shadowing is how you do that. Do this for 20 minutes a day with new audio every week. And by month 3, when you open your mouth, the sounds will come out correctly, even on words you have never said before, because your mouth has learned the instrument. Stage 4 is the final phase, month 4 through 6. It is called high-stakes simulation. This is the phase the CIA is most known for, and it is the phase that creates the leap from functional to fluent. They create scenarios with real pressure, not classroom conversations about the weather, but simulated situations where you need the language to solve a problem. The neuroscience behind this is something researchers call desirable difficulty. Your brain encodes information more deeply when it has to work hard to retrieve it. A low-stakes conversation in a classroom does not create the neural urgency that a high-stakes situation does. For you, this means you engineer pressure into your practice. You find a language exchange partner, but you do not chat. You give yourself a mission, convince them of something, ask for specific help, navigate a disagreement. You go to a restaurant that serves food from your target culture, and you order entirely in your target language. You tell the server your phone is broken and you need help. You create a small, real situation where the language is not optional. Every high-stakes moment, even a small one, creates a cortisol spike. And cortisol, in moderate doses, acts as a memory enhancer. It tells your hippocampus, this moment matters. Store it deeply. This is why you remember clearly what someone said to you in an argument, but not what you read in a textbook the night before an exam. Emotion seals the memory. So here's your 6-month map. Month 1, build your 2,000-word core using spaced repetition. 1 hour a day. Anki or a similar algorithm. Every word in a meaningful sentence. Every sentence about something real in your life. Month 2 and 3, stop studying. Start consuming. 1 hour of comprehensible input daily. Native children's content. Graded listeners. Don't translate, just absorb. And 20 minutes of shadowing. Every single day. Month 4 through 6, engineer pressure. Language exchange partners with missions, real-world situations you navigate in the language, conversations where something small is at stake. You will not be perfect at month 6, but you will be functional. You will be able to think in the language, not translate. Think. And that is the line that separates people who took Spanish for 4 years from people who can actually live in Madrid. One final thing before we close. You have probably been told you are not good at languages. Maybe a teacher said it. Maybe you said it to yourself after the app streak broke. But what you were experiencing was not an inability. It was a mismatch. Your brain was given the wrong tool for the job. You were handed a hammer and asked to paint a wall. You are not a bad language learner. You were never taught how language actually enters a human brain. Now you know, you're not someone who cannot learn languages. You are someone who was never given the right method until today. If you want a step-by-step breakdown of the exact Anki deck structure, the comprehensible input sources, and the shadowing protocol, I have put everything together in a free PDF guide you can download using the link in the description. It is called the 6-month language blueprint. It has the full system laid out in one place, so you can start today, not someday. Today. And if this video made you realize that the way your brain learns anything has been working against you, not just in language, but in everything you have ever tried to master, click on this video right here. We break down the neuroscience of why you start and quit and exactly how to rewire that pattern for good. I will see you there.